हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रभु।
हरे कृष्णा विनय जी। ठीक।
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Bol, Amit. Hare Krishna. Let's start with the prayers while the others are still joining. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Naruttamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्ते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शुभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंच कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले नमः। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे मुखम करोति वाचालम पंगुम लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवम श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरम। हरि ओम तत्सत्। हरे कृष्णा। सो welcoming all of you back to our Hari Katha. So we are continuing our discussion of the sixth canto of the Srimad Bhagavad. We are discussing the Leela of Vritrasura, a very interesting pastime. We have reached that juncture in this pastime. We are discussing chapter 10 today. We have reached that juncture where Indra, being fearful of Vritrasura, because Indra has already obtained the blessing of Narayan Kavacha from Lord Vishnu. But Vritra, who's created is so fearful. The father of Vishwarupa, after the three-headed Vishwarupa was killed, creates this demon, Twasta, creates this demon, Vritrasura. So fearful that Indra becomes very, very fearful. The Devatas become very fearful. They throw all kinds of weapons at him, but they are practically not having any effect on him. Then the Devatas, headed by Indra, take shelter of the Supreme Lord, who appears very kindly in front of them, his four-armed form. Beautiful prayers are offered by the Devatas to Lord Hari. Lord Hari appreciates the wisdom in those prayers, but gently reminds them of where they actually stand. Because at the end of the day, those who are actually true, pure devotees of the Lord are not just seeking the Lord for removal of difficulties. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Chaturvida bhajanti mam jana sukrutino Arjuna artha artharthi jigyasu jnani cha bharata. So even those who are in difficulties, like the Devatas in this case, they were in difficulties, so they were seeking shelter. So the Lord said that is pious, but ultimately, for those who know the ultimate truth, the ultimate conclusion, they are not bothered about all this. They understand that the ultimate happiness, not in a kingdom, is not getting back a position, is not in defeating a demon. It is about having that inner dedication, devotion to the Supreme Personality of God. So finally, Lord Hari gives his advice to Indra. He says that you need to make a weapon. But the weapon will be a very special weapon. That weapon needs to be made by the bones of a great sage known as Dadichi. He's so austere and he has been chanting this Narayan Kavacha so long that his bones are imbued with the potency of mind. They are very, very powerful. They are harder than the hardest substance in the world. So that's the way you can conquer. And after having given his advice, the Lord Hari disappears from the scene. So that is where we ended on the 9th chapter. So the 10th chapter is a continuation of this story. So after the Lord suddenly disappeared, just as he had arrived, he just suddenly disappeared. The Devatas approached the great sage Dadichi. If you remember, Dadichi was very fond of the Ashwini Kumaras because they were his students. So keeping Ashwini Kumaras in front, the Devatas went to Dadichi. Now this was obviously going to be a very uncomfortable conversation. Correct? And we discussed about this briefly because they went to him, son of Atharva, the great sage Dadichi, who was actually very liberal, was not attached to anything. But this was too much to ask. What more you can ask from someone saying, and give up your life? So, So nonetheless, they went and they presented their request to him. So Dadichi Muni, he heard this. He wasn't too surprised. He was probably so advanced that he already knew what was his destiny. So actually, in one sense, he said, okay, I mean, if you're asking me, it's okay. And then he put a but. So he partially agreed, the Bhagavatam says, partially. He put a but, the Bhagavatam says, because he just wanted to pull the legs of the Devatas for a few minutes before actually saying the final yes. Because he also found it very amusing. These are the Devatas. For their own benefit, they have come here to ask me to give up my own body. So jokingly, he started speaking to the Devatas. Oh, elevated Devatas, death is not an easy thing. It's so painful. It's so unbearable at the time of death. Don't you have any idea how painful you are asking me to give up my body? So painful. Every living entity in this world is so fond of his body. Everybody is struggling to always keep his body together, protect it at always. Even if everything else were to be sacrificed, ultimately the body, because only if body is there, then all other things matter. Otherwise, what is the use? Even to do religion, one needs the body. Even to enjoy, one needs the body. So who can possibly give up this body, which is the vehicle to achieve all things? Even if Lord Vishnu were to ask for the body. Oh, it's such a big thing. Give. So for a moment, the Devatas became, a bit jittery. So they thought, oh, I think he's going to back out. Devata said, oh. So when such a thing happens, when you really want something from someone, you have to, do a little bit of glorification, flattery. Oh, you are so rich, you are so generous, and we want some donation. Prabhu, nobody is more generous than you. Because of you only the temple is going on. Because of you, this is happening. See all these wonderful things happening because of you. Huh? Bring them in the front, put one garland, give some gifts. Everybody says Hari Bol, and the person says, So what is actually important is what he's offering. Of course, from Krishna's perspective, it's a very different story. And from the perspective of pure devotees, it's a different story. But generally, this is the way of the world. This is the way of the conditioned souls, to be more specific. So the Devata started glorifying. Oh, most elevated Brahmana, you are so great. You are so praiseworthy. And you are so kind. You are so affectionate. People like you, they are so generous. What can you not give? You are the epitome of giving. There is nothing that you cannot give. People like you can give everything, including their bodies. So they are basically saying, actually you can do, you can give. And then they said, actually, it's indirectly they admitted that actually even for us it is a bit embarrassing to ask this from you. But please try to understand. They spoke in a slightly more sophisticated way, but I'm just paraphrasing what they were trying to say. They are saying that, please try to understand. I know for us also it is very embarrassing, but if we are asking you for this, you have to understand how much of a difficult situation we will be in. That we are begging from you, because a beggar usually will not beg unless he's really in a desperate position, because be able to beg for a self-respecting man is often below his dignity. So we wouldn't really beg unless it was really necessary. But for a person who knows the difficult situation of the beggar, he will not hesitate to give. So Dadiji smiles. Okay, I was just joking. I just wanted to hear from you your understanding of religious principles. That's why I pretended as if I had some apprehension. Yeah, but of course, just like body is dear to everybody, my body is also dear to me. But at the end of the day, the body is impermanent. The body is a vehicle. Everybody's body is going to die. And one day or the other, I have to give up my body. And this is such a wonderful cause. The whole purpose of the body is to perform sacrifice. The whole purpose of the body is to do activities which will elevate oneself through yajna, dana, tapa, through devotion, through taking shelter of the Lord. Only a foolish person will not use his body and engage it in these kind of acts of sacrifice, acts of dharma, by which one can actually achieve eternal glory. Such hopeless people are pitied by all living beings, including immovable beings. And actually, it is true that a person who's actually advanced, he becomes unhappy to see the suffering of others. And to alleviate the suffering of others, a great saintly person is even willing to undergo a lot of suffering for themselves. And that is the real success of life. A life of sacrifice is a successful life. Not just a life where one gathers, rules, enjoys at the cost of others. Because ultimately this body is going to be eaten by the jackals and the dogs. I know this. I am not attached to this body. I know it can perish at any time. As the body perishes, everything related to the body will perish, the riches, the relatives. So the conclusion of dharma is the body must be used for the benefit of others. The dharma of seva is the highest dharma. And in service of the Lord, one has to work for the good of all living entities. So essentially, he said, I know that Lord Vishnu has told you, and obviously I'm a devotee of the Lord. Huh? Even though he doesn't put it in that words, net he's saying that, it's not a big deal for me. I'm not attached to this body. If it is the desire of Lord Vishnu, then very happily I will offer my life. Isn't it? I mean, such a great thing. I mean, if Lord Vishnu is himself saying it's such a wonderful thing. When one is asked to give up his body directly by the Lord or by the spiritual master who is the representative of the Lord, isn't it such a glorious opportunity? So finally he agreed and the Devatas were relieved. Oh, what he'll give or not give. But Dadichi was so liberal that he agreed to give. So it is said that he decided to give up his body because he was not going to commit suicide in the normal sense, nor were the Devatas going to kill him. But because he's such an advanced soul, a great transcendentalist who self-realized, it is said he controlled his life airs, his mind. I think perhaps it's not mentioned explicitly, but he must have sat in a position of trance. He disassociated his consciousness from all material bondage. And very easily his Atma detached himself from the. So it was a pretty painless process for him. So that is one thing which is said. Of course, death is painful, but death is painful not just because of the pain of the physical body. Death is said to be painful because it is intense emotional trauma for the living entity who's attached to his bodily identity. Because death is the moment where everything is taken away in a moment. Wealth, name, position, house, family, everything that it's like finished in one snap. So that becomes quite traumatic for the living entity, especially for those who are attached. The scriptures say for a person who self-realized, a person who has achieved Krishna Prem, his transition from the body is so smooth. In fact, one of the literatures, I do not remember exactly which one, it is mentioned it's so smooth that the pure devotee doesn't even realize he has left the material body and he has assumed a spiritual body and is heading back home, back to God. So for Dadichi Muni, that kind of a disassociation and moving away from the physical body was very smooth. It is said he could not even perceive how his soul left the body. That's the kind of detachment from the body that soul has. So actually for us, we should not be, as devotees, knowing the real nature of the soul. We may not have achieved full Krishna Prem. We should not be fearful of death. We should be prepared for death. Because death is inevitable. So in that way, we give a very good example. So Dadichi is actually a very, very wonderful example in the scriptures of one. He gave up his body. So Prabhupada says very nicely in the purports as well that this is the nature of a great soul. So what the lesson for us as sadhakas is, based on what he says and based on the purports, is essentially that a devotee lives for the sake of others. A sadhu lives for the sake of others. In what way? His entire life is an offering of service. Offering of the highest service. What is the highest service? The highest service to the living entities is to help them to get back reconnected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada says that's the whole idea of sannyas. When a person takes sannyas, samyak nyas, complete cessation of material activities. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that the sannyasi stops doing everything. He stops. Kamyanam karmanam nyasa. It's known as sannyasa. Krishna defines it in Bhagavad Gita. Giving up endeavor for activities aimed at gratifying oneself. Kamyanam karma. But Krishna says, right? Yajna dana tapa, dedicated for Om Tat Sat, should never be given up. Spiritual sacrifice, spiritual charity, spiritual austerity should never ever be given up. That is Krishna's opinion. So a successful life is a life dedicated to the service of others. So this is what everybody should aspire for, and this is what the Vedic ideal is. That eventually initially one maybe, as a grahastha engaged in taking care of himself and the family, but a time should come in his life, say 50 years of age, where he says, I have lived enough for myself. Now I want to take sannyas. Now, whether in today's time when actually wears saffron, holds a danda, that is secondary. But what is the spirit of sannyas? Spirit of sannyas is kamyanam karmanam nyasa. To stop serving one's material interest, but dedicate oneself to serving the interest of the Supreme Lord. Offer one's life in sacrifice for a higher cause. So ultimately that is expected from everybody, and that is what Dadichi Muni is saying. Yes, take my life, take my body, yes. After all, it's just a material body. My soul is never going to be affected. If it is in service of the Lord, if this is what is the Lord's desire, very happily I will give. And Prabhupada says that when such people come into the world, they can have massive transformation in the world. And he says we need more and more people in the Krishna consciousness movement will come forward and live lives of sacrifice like this. Not necessarily as sannyasis, whether one is grahastha, brahmachari, as long as one's life is dedicated to the cause of serving the Supreme, one's life is glorious. Even though there may be faults, may not be pure devotees, may have so many shortcomings. A dedicated life is a sublime life, even if it has many faults. So that is the wonderful example of the Dadichi. Of course, dying for Krishna is one thing. But living a selfless life for Krishna is actually even a bigger thing. In one way. Sometimes, we think, I can die for Krishna. If Krishna tells me, jump from here, I will jump. Of course, whether we are all actually there or not is a different issue. Krishna tells us, he says, oh, Krishna, why don't you just give me this instruction after 30 years? You can wrap up my other business. So giving up, like what Dadichi Muni did, giving up his life. In fact, in the Bhagavatam, there are so many examples, even that of the famous example of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj says, right, raised to to Lord Narasimha. He doesn't ask for liberation. He says, all the living entities in this world, give their karma to me, free them from all their sinful karma. I will remain in this world and you take all of them back. Please don't make such kind of prayers. Huh? If Krishna says Tatastu, we'll be finished. Krishna will not say, knows, but sometimes Krishna may just give us a small token, 1 billionth percentage of what we have asked for, and that also will be crushed. But that is the genuine sentiment of these souls. I am willing to remain in this world for millions of lives. Then he says, as long as there is even one living entity in this world who has gone away from you, my Lord, I want to be in this world trying to help him establish his relationship with you. That is Prahlad's prayer. That is a life of sacrifice. And actually, it is that consciousness which actually helps the jiva most intimately and most deeply, most profoundly connect his heart with the heart of the Supreme Lord. That doesn't even happen just by seeing the Lord. Devatas also saw Lord Hari. But were they connected to the same extent that Prahlad was connected? Or these other pure devotees are connected? No. It is this utter selflessness in service of the Lord that actually connects the innermost self, the innermost soul, in the depths of the core of its heart, the Supreme Lord, and makes it very, very dear. And that gives the highest experience of ecstasy. That's the example of Prahlad. That's the example of the great souls. For example, Prabhupada, if he wanted, he was a perfected soul, he could have stayed in Vrindavan and happily gone back home, back to Godhead. But at the age of 70, he spent over 11, actually around 14 years, 13, 14 years traveling all over the world. He took so many hassles, setting up a society, establishing temples, preaching, dealing with so many kinds of issues and opposition. But that was his offering of love. So that is the life of the great souls. And that is why great souls were sacrificing themselves for the pleasure of the Lord. They are given that license by the Lord to give devotion to others. He can grant. So these are our ideas. This is what we want to work towards. Of course, take small, small steps. We cannot become Prahlad suddenly, but we can become first 0.1%, 0.2%. I'm not even saying 1%. 1% is too big. But at least gradually practice and execute that spirit. Every time we say no to our own self-interest and say yes to the self-interest of the Lord, supreme interest, that means we are exercising our consciousness in that spirit of sacrifice. So we have to keep doing that activity. No to Maya, yes to Krishna. No to Maya, yes to Krishna. So that gradually reinforces itself and makes us spiritually strong. And a pure devotee's life is like that of a lamp. What does a lamp do? It burns itself to give light to others. Right? So Dadichi Muni has set a very wonderful example in that regard by giving up his body. So after Dadichi Muni leaves his body, Indra took the help of Vishwakarma. Vishwakarma is the architect of the Devata. So he was given the task, take the bones of Dadichi and from that craft a weapon. Yeah? Now I don't know how exactly the Vajra looks like. Different kinds of imagery is shown. Oftentimes it's shown like a like one bone with many bones coming out from it and all kinds of imagery is there. I do not know. I don't know if it is described in detail how it looks like. But nonetheless, it was made from the bones. And it was so powerful, being imbued by the potency of the Supreme Lord. It was harder than the hardest substance in all existence, being so powerful. So Indra, when he got that weapon finally made by Vishwakarma, he was like supremely confident. Generally, those who are pure devotees, they are supremely confident in Krishna's protection. They are not bothered about whether I have weapons, I have a shield, I have this, I have that. They are not bothered. This is a beautiful story in Krishna Leela. When Aghasura came to Vrindavan, remember, Aghasura opened his mouth, huh, to make it appear as if it's a mountain cave. So the cowherd boys and Krishna figured out that this is not actually a mountain cave, this is the mouth of a serpent. But nonetheless, when Krishna went in, all the cowherd boys singing and dancing went in with Krishna into the mouth of the serpent. Because they had utter confidence in Krishna. Huh? They didn't strike a deal with Krishna. Oh, Krishna, we'll go in, but you promise me you'll protect me. Little bit also nothing should happen to me. I'm telling you first. You sign here, you sign. Later you say I didn't say then. So they had such unflinching trust that Krishna will take care of me. And the take care of me faith of devotee is of a different level. Take care of me faith of a devotee is not just that Krishna will ensure that nothing happens to me in a dangerous situation. It means he has full faith that whatever will happen to me will be by the full will of Krishna. And that is the best thing for me if Krishna is willing it. That is a very high faith. You understand the difference? Sometimes we have faith. Oh, I prayed to Krishna and Krishna saved me from this situation. I was going to die and in this operation, but I was miraculously saved. Haribo. All glories to Krishna. Yeah, that is fine. All glories to Krishna. All that is wonderful. But let's say in that situation, if the operation was not successful, then what would be your interpretation? So devotee doesn't tie his faith like emotional blackmail to Krishna. If you do this for me, then I have faith in you and your protection. But don't do, huh? So the faith of those who are very advanced, especially the pure devotees, is that of the Ananya Bhaktas, the Sharanagata. And Vritrasura is an example of that. And the Devatas are not. Correct? And that's why Lord Vishnu also, when he gives darshan, he pinches them gently. You're talking big, big things, but you are not quite there. Vritrasura being a pure devotee, and we'll go to that pastime later, it's in the Bhagavatam, later for a few chapters down the line. Pure devotee who got cursed to become a demon, but he still has full faith in the Supreme Lord. He didn't say, what is this? Krishna, you did like this to me. I did so much for you. This is what you did. See, Indra is still beautiful, king of heaven. He's so materialistic. I am such a great devotee. See, you give me a demon's body. So, pure devotee has such implicit faith in what Krishna will arrange for him. And he doesn't demand that Krishna gives explanation. That is very difficult. Huh? Sometimes I say, okay, Krishna, I'll accept it, but can you please explain to me how this is going to be good for me? Can I have? Can I have all the answers? It will be easier for me to go through. Then I'll know how. But that's not how life works, right? That's not how Krishna puts his devotees into various challenges in life. So devotees have implicit faith. Whatever will happen, मारो भी राखो भी जो इच्छा तुम्हार नित्य दास प्रति व अधिकार. You know, Thakur says, huh? You may kill me or you may protect me. Both ways is your mercy. So that was the cowherd boys. They just went in. And actually, they died inside. And then Krishna brought them back to life. And they totally didn't remember anything about what happened. So anyway, so that is the kind of surrender. The strong faith that the devotees have is surrender to Krishna, you will never be the loser. It may sometimes appear that one is a loser, the short term. It may appear from an external perspective. But ultimately, it will always be a blessing if one remains firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. So anyway, Indra took the thunderbolt. He was sitting on the back of Airavat. Then he was feeling very confident. He was feeling confident. Why? Now I have the weapon. It was not just the faith in the Supreme Lord. It was that now I have that powerful weapon which the Lord has given. Now I can. The Lord said I can kill this demon with this weapon. So I have confidence. Of course, he's still a devotee. He's a very wonderful devotee. But you see, the thinking is so different. We're not here trying to criticize anybody. But the thinking, the level of consciousness is so different. So Indra, sitting on the back of Airavat, surrounded by the Devatas, all the great sages purifying him. He rode off on Airavat to challenge the demons. Now he said, now I have the Narayan Kavach, I have the Vajra. So then, so this battle, the Bhagavatam says, this particular pastime, it happened actually long back. It happened at the end of Satya Yuga and the beginning of Treta Yuga, but not of this Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga. It happened at the beginning of this Manvantara, in the first millennium. Prathama Yuga. First Yuga means the first Chatur Yuga. So there are 14 Manvantaras. We are currently in the 8th Manvantara, which is known as the Vaivasvata Manvantara. So in the Vaivasvata Manvantara, there is the first Chatur Yuga. We are in the 28th. The first Chatur Yuga, in the transition between Satya Yuga to Treta Yuga, that is when this particular pastime happened. And it is said a great battle took place. So Indra rushed. It said the comparison the Bhagavatam gives is just like Rudra, who one day had become very angry on Antaka, Yamaraj, and fiercely went to attack him. Similarly, Indra, with great anger and great force, attacked Vritrasura. And Vritrasura had gathered there a host of the demons from the lower planetary systems. The demons are all from the Vilasvarga, right? We discussed that, right? And this fierce battle in the Prathama Yuga happened on the bank of Narmada. Now you will say, oh, I have to come on the bank of Narmada to fight. So Prabhupada explains that this Narmada is not our Narmada river. So this is the celestial Narmada. So just like we have these very famous rivers, especially the 5 rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, Kaveri, Godavari, like that, the heavenly planets, the original rivers, because the original is in the spiritual world, but in the heavenly worlds also these rivers flow. And the rivers in this, on the earth planet, are said to be representatives of those rivers. There's a Narmada, there is a Ganga. The higher planets, she is known as Mandakini Ganga, Ganga Devi. So like that, there is also the Narmada. So when the Asuras headed by Vritrasura, they saw Indra coming with this thunderbolt. And Indra was surrounded by all the various categories of the Devatas, the Rudras, the Vasus, the Adityas, the Ashwini Kumaras, the Pitas, the Vannis, the Marus, the Ribhus, the Sadhyas, Vishwadevas, these are all categories of Devatas. Tremendous effulgence, all of them so confident. There are hundreds and thousands of demons. All kinds of Asura, Rakshasas, Yakshas, various species. Even amongst the demons, there are various species. Just like amongst the higher beings, there are various species. So many names are mentioned. These are all very famous demons. Their names come across in many, many stories. Sumali, Mali, Namuchi, Shambar, Anarva, Vimurdha, Rishabha, Asura, Hayagriva, Sankushira, Viprachitti, Ayomukha, Puloma, Vrishaparva, Praheti, Heti, Utkala. These are all names mentioned. Many of these names you may have heard, they come in different stories across. These are demons perhaps of this Manvantara who are staying in the lower planetary systems. So they were also equipped with all kinds of weapons. They were also very excited to fight. They were also roaring like fearless lions. And as the Devatas approached, they started hurling their weapons towards the Devatas. Their lances, their trishul, their swords, arrows. From all directions, they attacked the Devatas and kind of sent a barrage of missiles. This is a common tactic in war, right? Sometimes when the army comes, the first thing you want to do is you want to overwhelm them. How you overwhelm? You launch such an overwhelming attack that they become, totally demoralized. So it is said so many weapons were thrown at the Devatas as if the entire looked like the sky was covered by stars and everything was like falling in. It became like dense clouds in the sky, so many weapons. They were expecting that the Devatas will become scared, but the Devatas were so confident with this power of Lord Vishnu and this weapon that Indra had received by that blessing, that the Devatas very easily counteracted that shower of innumerable weapons by sending their own weapons, which destroyed all these various projectiles. They were shocked. They didn't expect their missile shower to be ineffective. So after they ran out of their weapons, they started picking up trees, mountains, rocks, big rocks, and started hurling them towards the Devatas. Again, very effortlessly, the Devatas destroyed all those projectiles mid-air. So the Bhagavatam gives this wonderful example. Just like when insignificant people, they use harsh language against a big saintly person, the harsh words of foolish people does not disturb the saintly people. What that means is a saintly person, is not bothered by opinions, criticism, and harsh views of ordinary ignorant people. Similarly, all these weapons and this roaring of the demons had no effect on the Devatas. Because the Devatas were situated under the protection of the demons realize that whatever they are doing is not having the desired effect, very rapidly lost their morale. Because then they realize this war is gone. Huh? Correct? Yeah. Huh? When the opposition realizes that they cannot conquer and you are about to go into war, the opposition becomes so demoralized, they don't even have the morale to fight. Huh? They have given up even before actual combat. Right now, it is, they have not even had a direct conflict. They are now, right now, in the process of throwing weapons at each other. They are already. So they realize, why to fight now? I don't think we can capture and defeat the Devatas. So as the Devatas were still approaching fiercely with their weapons, all these various demons, they became so scared that Vritrasura, who was their leader, they left him and they started running away in the opposite direction, fleeing from the battlefield. So the nature of our army is, mob mentality. When a few people start running, other people also become more panicky. Few people panic, more people become panic. More become panicky, even more become panicky. So everyone started running away. Vritrasura, so brave, such a powerful warrior. He's looking around, everybody's running away. Vritrasura was very brave. Because he was a very, truly a chivalrous fighter, a great-minded hero. He started chastising the demons. Started saying, oh, demons, oh, Viprachiti, oh, Namuchi started taking their names. What is this? Where are you running away? Don't do this. You are afraid of death. Why should you be? You are a Kshatriya. You are a warrior. A warrior is never afraid of death. The body is bound to die. One day you are going to die. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, infamy for a Kshatriya is worse than death. Don't run away. Why you want to be so cowardly? Given that death is anyway inevitable. And please understand, same argument which Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita. If you die in this battle, you will attain the higher realms. And if you win, you will enjoy the kingdom. Hatva prapsyasi swargam, jitova bhokshasi mahim. So that is why Kshatriya's life is glorious, because in either case, as long as he doesn't give up his dharma, yuddhe cha apalayanam. This is the quality of the Kshatriyas per the Bhagavad Gita. Never to run away in battle. So not everybody has that kind of a heart. If you put a Vaishya in battle, he will bribe somebody and find a way out, run away. He doesn't have that kind of a heart. So that requires a kind of courage and chivalry, which only a Kshatriya spirit has. So, of course, a Brahmana is also fearless, but Brahmana's fearlessness is a different kind of fearlessness. A Kshatriya's fearlessness is a different kind of fearlessness. Kshatriya's fearlessness is a kind of a courage and chivalry. Brahmana's fearlessness is because of transcendental knowledge. Because he knows I am not this body. So that's a higher kind of fearlessness. Anyway, Kshatriya's fearlessness is also to be appreciated. Because he's willing to give up his body in the pursuit of his duty. So, Vritrasura started chastising the demons like this. That there are two ways to leave this body, and both of which are glorious. What are the two ways? The best way to leave the body is to become a perfect yogi, and through the yoga mystic process, leave the body from here and go back to Godhead. If one cannot do that, you are not so elevated. The second good option is to fight in battle as a true Kshatriya, and be willing to die, because that is glorious and that will take you higher. So that is the nature of dharma. One does not give up his dharma just because it becomes inconvenient. So Vritrasura starts chastising the Devatas like this. And as this is happening, this chapter comes to an end with the chastisement of Vritrasura Devatas. So it's not a very big chapter. So we'll continue of course, the story doesn't end. This war hasn't ended. They're running away. What happens next is what we will discuss in the next discussion. So we'll take questions. Yes, Amit Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, one question. Vritrasur told the Asuras that, irrespective of whether you die on the battlefield or you gain victory, you still. So, if you die on the battlefield, you attain the heavenly kingdom. But I thought that was only when you are on the side of Dharma that you attain the heavenly kingdom. So, Asuras are against Dharma. So, if they die in a battle that is against Dharma, they still attain heavenly kingdom.
They may be adharmic, but for a Kshatriya, as long as they fight, a Kshatriya can conquer another kingdom through a dharmic battle. That is not considered adharmic. Dharma Yuddha doesn't necessarily mean fighting directly for the purpose of protecting religion, but according to Kshatriya Dharma, if two kings are fighting, even over a kingdom, two Kshatriyas are fighting, even over a kingdom, and Kshatriya Dharma, as per Kshatriya Dharma, they are following the rules of combat, then whoever dies on both sides fighting a just battle will achieve a higher destination. Now, how high? Of course, if they are fighting directly for a Dharma Yuddha, like on the side of the Lord, for the protection of Dharma, obviously the result will be greater. But if one dies in the execution of one's duty, one still achieves an auspicious destination, the higher one. So, Prabhupada, in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, second or the first, perhaps in the second, he explains in the purport that both the sannyasi and the Kshatriya who dies in a dharmic battle attain the Surya Loka. Now, and there he speaks specifically about a dharmic battle. But again, like what I said, what is a dharmic battle? A battle which is done within the principles of dharma. Right? So two parties can be fighting and the fight can still be dharmic. Dharmic here means as per Kshatriya Dharma. Right? So that is why even the Kauravas, even though they were wrong in various ways and they got punished for various ways, because they still fought as per the code of the Kshatriyas and they died in the battle, they also achieved the heavens. Right? At the end of the Mahabharata.
Okay, Prabhuji, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope it answers the question. So within dharma, there are many levels of dharma. Right. So in the ancient times, yes, a king can expand his empire in the process. See, in ancient times, you have to understand, in Vedic dharma, fighting battles was not like how invaders, especially Islamic invaders, they invaded India, would pillage cities, rape women, loot, burn villages. That is not a dharma yuddha. That is barbarism. In ancient times, when two kings would fight, even over a kingdom, they would never touch an innocent person. They would never loot. They would gather on the battlefield in front of each other in a fair battle, declare war, not come in the middle of the night, not drop bombs, not send suicide bombers, not do any kind of things like that. Stand in front of each other, challenge, fight a battle without disturbing anybody, and whoever wins will rule the kingdom. So this is what we call as following the Kshatriya Dharma in that setting. Correct? That is why we differentiate a soldier from a terrorist. Correct? Yeah. So we have to know the difference. Those who are pirates, invaders, dacoits, they don't go to heaven because they get killed while fighting with someone. We are talking about Kshatriyas who fight the battles like the kind I spoke about this. Yeah, just to give more clarity.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Suresh Prabhu. Yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, one doubt. Can you tell me what is a Prakasha expansion? I have idea. Like Vibhava and Vilasa expansions, right, Prabhu? What is the difference? Maybe.
To get into that, you should read teachings of Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah, I'm reading. I just got a bit confused actually. So
I don't want to say now because I don't have the detailed technicality right now on top of my head. So I will have to read that up before I can give that clarity to you.
Prakash is the exact expansion, right, Prabhu? Last Leela, what we
Correct. That Prakasha. Prakash is higher than Vilasa.
know. Oh, okay.
So there is a Swayam Rupa and there is a Prakasha. So first is Swayam Rupa. First is the Lord himself, then his Swayam Rupa. Swayam Rupa is his direct form. And Prakasha is his his expansion. But within the Prakash also there is Vaibhav Prakash and there is another category.
Yeah, because I was
Vyasa,
reading
Vaibhav
Chaitanya
Prakash and Vilas.
Charitamrita, so I got this doubt actually. I had read somewhere, but I'm not able to recollect.
Yeah. I don't remember all these technicalities on top of my head, but yes, they're summarized nicely in teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Of course, it's based on Chaitanya Charitamrita only. But it is, yeah. So all these expansions fall into those categories of either Swayam Prakash or Vaibhav Prakash or Vilasa expansions. Broadly, these three categories.
Yeah.
Vilas is for the purpose of enjoyment, certain forms the Lord takes occasionally. Prakash are usually considered more higher manifestations.
So, Prabhuji, these are different from the avatar concept, like avatar.
They're all within the avatar is that broad. See,
Oh.
what is avatar? There are expansions of the Lord. All these expansions are situated eternally in the spiritual world. There is Vilasa, Swayam Prakash, Vaibhav Prakash, they're all situated in this. When any of these forms descend to the material world, they are called as avatar.
Yeah, good.
You understand? Avatar literally means he who descends.
Yeah.
So when Swayam Bhagwan Krishna descends, he's called Avatari just to differentiate him because he's the origin of all avatars. But avatar just means avatri, to come down. Come down from where? Come down from the spiritual world.
Yeah.
So from any of these, it can be an avatar.
Yes.
But if you take it in a more liberal way, even when eternal associates of the Lord come down, you can call that as an avatar in that sense. Not avatar of God, but an avatar of that personality. Because that personality has come down from the spiritual world.
Yeah.
Correct? For example, we can say Nanda Maharaj in Goloka takes an avatar on earth and becomes Nanda Maharaj in the Leela of Raja.
Yeah.
Because he comes down. Like that, in that sense.
Yes.
So any of the forms of the Lord can take avatar.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, the details, I don't want to give a wrong definition. So, yeah.
Yeah, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, what you can do is, if you have a very specific doubt on that, point out what paragraphs you are referring to and what aspect of that you didn't understand. You can message me individually also. I'll see if I can uh, bring clarity to it.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, sure, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, wonderful. So,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
yeah, Sundar Sundar Prabhu, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I just wanted to share two what points, and,
Yeah.
and I had one different question. Okay, the first point I wanted to share is that I think like for our example, during one of the class, in fact, Jayapataka Swami himself told, he said, I want all my disciples not to take another birth, because
Yeah.
if you take another birth, I have to come again to kind of deliver
Yeah.
all of you. So because he was trying to tell that this what material world is very very challenging. So he
Yeah.
said,
Prabhupada also said the same thing.
yeah,
Don't make me come back.
yeah, true. That was the first point. And the second point, I just wanted to share something which happened in Talogintan. One of the devotees,
Is
I
it
think,
related to this point? Is it related to this point? Because I want to make a
yes,
comment on what you just said.
can in
Can
a
I make
way,
a quick comment? Yeah, can I make
can,
it?
sure,
Yeah, then you can go to the second point. Yeah.
can,
So of course, what the spiritual master is saying is we must apply ourselves so seriously to the process that we have all serious intention of going back home, back to Godhead at the end, in this life itself. So in that sense, we should put an effort. Yeah. But having said that, a devotee, in spite of his best effort, if he is not able to go back to Godhead, he is willing to go on making his effort life after life after life, if it pleases Krishna, or if it is the desire of Krishna that he continues to render service. So that is the consciousness of the devotee. So the highest consciousness is of the devotee is not so much that I want to go or I don't want to go. His consciousness is, oh Krishna, if it will please you that I serve you in the spiritual world, that is most wonderful. I'll go back to the spiritual world. But if you want, either because I'm not purified, that's why you want me to continue in the material world more, or I'm qualified, but you still want me to continue serving because there are certain mission of yours which needs to be executed, then I'm willing to spend more time in this world. So the point is that the devotee remains in a surrendered mood. But what I think what Prabhu is saying is, and what of course Prabhupada said, Devatas, and all spiritual masters says, our laziness should not be the reason to remain in the world. Laziness in spiritual life, which means have rest of eternity and just slowly make progress. So that is not what we want, because even when one takes shelter of a spiritual master, this is the spiritual master also takes a vow, deliver the disciple. So the spiritual master is very serious about delivering the disciple. So he said that if the disciple doesn't go back to Godhead, the spiritual master comes again to this world in some form or the other, directly or indirectly, to help his disciple to achieve the spiritual world. So it is said that the disciple should not cause that inconvenience to the guru. So we have to balance the understanding properly. Yeah, Prabhu, you want to say the second point?
yes, Prabhu, just to share something happened as it was what shared by my father-in-law. Recently, what happened? One of the devotees in what is that Talogintan, she what passed away. Very very simple devotee. always doing what is that, what is that seva for the Lord and so on. So before she passed away, she said, just put, just, I want to see Lord what? Dev.
Hmm.
So while she was lying there in what bed, so they kind of put the Lord's picture there. She was telling whatever she has to tell to her family and all. She already told. So at last, devotees were chanting and all. She just looked at the Lord's picture, and she, what is that, finally passed away. So
Hmm.
this is a very, very simple devotee. So so at the end of the day, I think how what sincere we are, and all those and what all those small things at the time of that, the Lord Himself will kind of come and what is that, make the necessary adjustment. So she just saw the Lord towards the end, just while the other devotees were chanting, and then she just left. I just wanted to share these points so that at least it kind of
Yeah.
gives the others a hope that all these things is not something very, very far away. It is within us. So if we endeavor God, Krishna willingly, then maybe we also can experience the same thing. That's the
Hmm.
point I wanted to share.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
Yes.
I have another question, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Prabhu, I just wanted to ask you, because I don't know whether I am not sure about entire details and all. Okay, like the recently installed deities, or what is that, Lord Ram in Ayodhya.
Hmm.
Because usually when we pray, we are supposed to pray Sita, Ram, and so on. So here the deities which is installed is only of Lord Ram.
Hmm.
Uh, I I just wanted to know, is it that the other? I mean, it was because originally only what is that, Lord Ram was there, or in future they will install the deities of Sita, Lakshmana, and Hanuman, because it is also mentioned in the scriptures that when you worship the Lord, you have to worship, like for example, Sita and Ram together, rather than worshipping only what is one of them. If you
Yeah.
can share some thoughts, Prabhu. Thank you.
So the reason in this particular temple to worship Lord Ramchandra by himself, the reason given is that because it's a Ram Lala deity. It's a deity of Lord Ram who's 5 years old. So this is before Sita Vivaha, right? So just like when we worship, like for example, people who worship Laddu Gopal in our tradition, they don't keep Radha and Krishna. It's just Laddu Gopal, with a butter in his hand or a laddu in his hand, right? So it is for that reason, because this temple is specifically for the birthplace. The Lord, of course, in Lord Ramchandra's, we don't see like Krishna, like a very baby. Oftentimes, maybe there are some murtis like that as well. But in this particular form, it is Ram who is 5 years old. So in the same temple, on another floor, the full Ram Darbar is there. Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman. I think that installation hasn't happened yet, I think. But it is in the same temple, the same premise. But the primary deity is that of Ram Lala, the 5-year-old Ram. So Ramchandra got married when he was around, I think, 14. And I think he went to Vanvas, if I'm not wrong, around 24 or 27, something like that. There's some estimations. I haven't validated, but I'm just sharing whatever. So like that. So this is Ram 5 years old. So also we should understand from a higher perspective. From a higher perspective, we should understand that a devotee even when he will see the Lord, he understands that the Lord is never separate from his energy. So this is true for the Lord Radha Raman also. Radha Raman is alone. Where there is, we call Radha Raman, but where is the Radha next to him? So it is said Radha Rani is in his heart. So actually the energy is from the heart of the Lord. It is his manifestation. And who's the energy of the Lord? It is his heart only manifesting as the Ladini potency. So that is one way to see, for a person who has that higher vision, see that the energetic expansion as well as all incarnations, everything is within the transcendental form. It is not different from him. So there can be many ways to look at that. So at least in the temple of Ramchandra in Ayodhya, yeah, both darshans will be there. Ram Lalla as it is installed now, and also Ram Darbar, Sita Ram Lakshman.
Okay, Prabhu. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So next week we will discuss Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yeah. Thank you very much. Kanthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samaved Gaur Bhakti.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu,
Hare
thank you.
Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you everyone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hari Bol.